Danny Ross saw the eviction notice on the kitchen counter every time he walked by it. 3 days. The landlord changed the locks and threw his things out on the street after that. Even with 3 part-time jobs, it wasn't enough to pay rent in this city. The grocery store, the warehouse, and the late-night security job didn't matter when your body was held together by VA painkillers and stubborn pride. Danny's phone rang. Not sure what number it is. Most likely another debt collector. He almost didn't say anything. Mr. Daniel Ross? The voice was clear and professional. This is Catherine Mills calling from Brennan & Associates Legal Services. We've been trying to get in touch with you about your late uncle's estate. Danny made a face. Uncle? Yes, sir. Leonard Ross? He died 6 months ago. You are the only person who will get his money. Leonard? Danny didn't remember him very well. The strange uncle who left Earth when Danny was a kid to chase a dream of studying aliens in deep space. It was hard to get together with family when one of them lived 3 star systems away. Danny said quietly, I didn't know he died. We had trouble finding you, Mr. Ross. Your uncle told you exactly what to do with his property. But there is something that needs to be done quickly. You have 48 hours to claim the asset or it will be thrown away. Can you get to Station Meridian? Danny read the notice of eviction. In front of his empty fridge. At the pills on the bathroom sink that kept his back from hurting every morning. Yeah, he said. I can be there. The shuttle ticket took all of his last credit, but who cares? He would be homeless in 3 days anyway. You might as well see what Uncle Leonard thought was worth leaving behind. Station Meridian orbited a gas giant, which was a huge business center where 1,000 different species lived and traded. Danny had never been to another world before. The gravity felt a little strange, which made his bad knee hurt more than usual. He followed the instructions on his datapad through busy hallways that smelled like ozone and alien spices and past stores selling things he didn't know what they were and didn't want. Cargo Bay 7 was in the industrial area, which was a long way from the tourist areas. The bay door was locked, and a man in a station uniform who looked nervous was waiting outside. Daniel Ross? The man asked while looking at his tablet. That's me. Okay, fine. Listen, I'm Station Master Briggs and I need to be honest with you. He wiped the sweat off his forehead. Your uncle gave you something. No one else would accept it. For 6 months, we've been looking for a way to fix it, but... He stopped as if he were looking for the right words. It will end tomorrow as planned. Just say you don't want it now if you don't. Please make it easier for us all. What is it? Briggs put his hand on the door scanner. Showing you is easier. The cargo bay was huge and very cold. The emergency lights made everything look very bright white. There was a containment unit in the middle that was the size of a small house. Its walls were solid and hummed with power. Briggs said, your uncle was a xenobiologist. Studied species that were dangerous. This was the last thing he studied. The money died when he did. No one wanted to be responsible for it. Why? Briggs typed a command into his tablet. The walls of the containment area flickered and became see-through. Danny's throat closed up. There was a dragon inside. Not a fairy tale or a story from Earth. An alien dragon that is real and alive. It was huge, 12 feet of muscle and scales, a deep bronze color, and scars all over it like it had been in a fight. Its wings were folded tightly against its body, and each one was big enough to block out the sun. Its claws shone like knives that had been polished. The head was sharp and smart, and the amber eyes glowed softly in the dark. Those eyes stayed on Danny and didn't look away. Briggs whispered, that's a Draxian war drake, as if speaking too loudly might wake something bad. From the Conquest Wars. You probably don't remember, but 50 years ago the Draxian Empire tried to make half of the known galaxy its slaves. Their war drakes were in charge of the attack fleets. Set fire to whole colonies. Took the lives of millions. Danny moved closer even though he didn't want to. The drake followed him but didn't attack him. Just looked at me with those unsettling, smart eyes. Briggs went on, everyone in the galaxy hates these things. I can't blame them. Most Draxians stayed alone after the war. But some war drakes were left behind and not taken care of. Your uncle found this one somewhere, brought it here and studied it for 20 years. Came to see me every week without fail. But now that he's gone we can't keep it. Can't let it go, it's a living thing from an enemy empire. No one will take it so I can't move it. So we put it down in a humane way tomorrow. That's the law. Danny pushed himself closer to the containment field. The drake's head tilted a little, and it looked at him like a person would look at a puzzle. Is it risky? Danny asked. It's a war drake. All of them are dangerous. But this one has never been mean. Just sits there. Your uncle's notes say it's calm, but who knows? These things are made to kill. Danny thought about the dogs he had seen at the shelter while he was getting better. The ones with the sad eyes that scared everyone away. The ones that got put down because no one wanted to take a chance on them. How much does it cost to keep? Briggs blinked. What? Food, housing, and permits. How much? You can't be serious. No one wants a Draxian war drake. You would go broke just by paying for the insurance and everyone on this station would hate you for it. How much? Briggs opened files on his tablet, and his hands shook a little. He said numbers that made Danny's head spin. Special containment. Special permissions. Food that is special. Fees for monitoring. There was no way. It is completely impossible for someone who is about to be evicted. Danny, on the other hand, kept looking at those amber eyes. At the scars that cover the bronze scales. The way the drake sat perfectly still, as if it had given up hope for anything better. He knew how that felt. Danny said, I'll take it. You're crazy. Maybe. But I'm going to take it. It took more than an hour to fill out the forms. Briggs kept talking about lawsuits, insurance and liability, but he still filled out the forms. Other workers at the station came over to watch and talked quietly to each other. Some people took pictures. One woman spoke an alien language on the phone, and her voice was sharp with fear. Danny signed the last paper and his hand hurt. He officially owned the drake. His job. His issue. He went back to the containment field one more time. He could see old wounds in the scales up close, where the armor plating had been ripped off and healed in a rough way. Scars from battle. This wasn't a pet. This was a person in the army. A veteran just like him. Danny said quietly, I guess we're stuck with each other now, not expecting an answer. The drake's huge jaws opened a little bit. The throat moved. And then it said something. Thanks for not letting them kill me, Daniel Ross. The voice was deep and full and every word was said perfectly. It sounds old-fashioned and formal, but it's very clear. Danny couldn't place the accent, but it sounded like old movies or history documentaries. The tablet that Station Master Briggs was using fell to the metal floor. The whispers stopped. Everyone in the cargo bay stopped moving and stared at the containment unit in shock. Danny's heart raced. You can talk? His eyes were drawn to the drake's amber eyes. Yes. Briggs found his voice, which was high and scared. That can't be done. Draxians don't talk. They talk to each other using bioelectric pulses. Their vocal cords aren't set up for human speech. They can't, But the drake had said something. Everyone had heard it. It had been caught on recordings on a dozen tablets. A Draxian war drake. Speaking English perfectly. Knowing Danny's full name. The doors to the cargo bay flew open. Security guards ran in with their guns drawn. Scientists with scanning equipment, officials with serious faces, and bureaucrats yelling into communicators came up behind them. Danny stood still between them and the containment unit, his mind racing. The drake hadn't moved at all. It just looked at Danny with those old, smart eyes. And at that moment, Danny knew that his life would never be the same again. He had come to this station expecting to find some old books or research notes. Instead, he got a talking war drake as an inheritance. A being that the galaxy hated. A thing that shouldn't be there. And he had just signed papers saying it was his job. Sir, please step away from the containment unit, a guard said. Danny stayed still. Couldn't move. He couldn't stop thinking about one thing even though everything else, the chaos, the impossibility, the sheer insanity of what had just happened, was going through his mind. The drake had thanked him. A creature bred for war, left behind by its people, and set to die had spoken its first words in who knows how long to thank the stranger who had refused to let it die. Danny knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to let them take it away no matter what happened next. Within seconds the cargo bay was in complete chaos. Scientists pushed through security guards and waved scanning devices at the containment unit. People at the station yelled orders into their communicators. Someone set off the emergency alarm, which made the bay fill with loud sirens until Briggs hurriedly turned it off. It spoke. A young technician yelled as he played the recording back on his tablet. Hey. Clear as day. Impossible, an older scientist shouted as she pushed her way to the front. Dr. Chin, Xenolinguistics, was written on her badge. Draxians talk to each other through bioelectric signals. Their throats can't make human sounds. This has to be a trick like a translation tool. Briggs weakly said, There's no device, as he looked at his monitors. The containment unit is clean. There is no technology inside except for the life support systems. Danny couldn't move, his eyes were glued to the drake. The creature hadn't moved since it spoke. It sat perfectly still, watching the chaos with a look on its face that Danny couldn't understand. Was it afraid? Gave up? Waiting? More and more people came in. The cargo bay looked like a convention center in less than 20 minutes. Danny saw at least 40 beings from a dozen different species, all yelling theories and asking to get in. Security set up a barrier around the containment unit to keep people away. After that, the official group showed up. 3 aliens in fancy robes walked through the crowd like they owned the place. The first one was tall, thin, had blue skin and 4 eyes. He walked with an air of authority that made even the guards step aside. The device that translated for him spoke in sharp, cold tones. "I am Counselor Ven, and I work for the Galactic Council's Xenological Affairs Committee. This animal is now considered to be a very rare type of xenological anomaly. We are taking it right away for study under Section 7 of the Interspecies Research Act." No. Danny's voice came out louder than he thought it would. All 4 of Counselor Ven's eyes were on him at the same time. "Excuse me? I told you no. I own this Drake legally. I have the forms. It's in my care." "Mr. Ross," Ven said, sounding like he was talking to a child, "you don't understand how important this is. A Draxian that can speak English breaks 17 well-known rules of xenology. This needs to be looked into by scientists right away. Look into everything you want. But you're not going to take it. This isn't a deal. The Council has all the power to—" Danny cut in. "The Council is in charge of a lot of things. But this Drake now belongs to Earth. It's registered to a person on Earth who works at an independent station. You want it? You will have to deal with the law on Earth. Good luck with that." He was lying. Most of the time. Danny didn't know what kind of legal status he really had. But he had learned one thing from his years in the military. If you act confident, people will hesitate. Ven's skin turned a darker blue. "Mr. Ross, you are making a big mistake. We will come back with the right permission. Don't try to move this thing." He swept out, and his followers followed him, already talking quickly into their communicators. After that, the crowd got smaller. Scientists didn't want to leave, but they promised to come back. Security set up a rotation for the guards. In the last hour, Station Master Briggs looked like he had aged 10 years. Briggs said softly, "You just made enemies of some very powerful people." "Yeah, well, not the first time. I'm putting the Drake in a safe hangar. Somewhere less public. You have about 48 hours before the Council comes back with real legal power." Briggs looked Danny in the eye. "I'd get some answers if I were you. Quick." The new hangar was smaller and quieter. The metal walls were covered in harsh shadows from the industrial lights. In the middle was the containment unit, which had power cells that hummed softly. Danny pulled over a maintenance crate and sat down about 10 feet away from the field barrier. For a long time they didn't say anything. Danny looked at the Drake closely for the first time. Some of the scars looked like they were put there on purpose, not just from fighting. Surgical. It looked like someone had cut into the creature and taken things out. "So," Danny finally said, "are you going to tell me what's going on? How do you talk?" The Drake moved and its scales scraped against the floor. That same deep, old voice filled the hangar when it spoke. "My name is Forge. I will only talk to you, Daniel Ross. The others wouldn't get it. They would only see what they think they will see. A monster that learned a trick. I'm paying attention." In the dim light, Forge's amber eyes looked like they were glowing. "My people sent scout ships into space that had never been seen before 300 years ago. We were explorers back then, but the Empire made us conquerors. One of those ships picked up radio signals from your world. The rest of the galaxy didn't know about Earth yet. We listened to your broadcast for years." Danny bent forward. "What kind of shows?" "Everything. Your songs. Your reports on the news. Your shows for fun. Your talks and arguments. We had translators, but some of us wanted more than that. We wanted to know what the words meant, not just what they said. We learned your languages then. English, Spanish, Mandarin, and Arabic. Everyone. We looked at human culture like scholars look at old books. Why? Because you were so interesting. A species that always found a way to make peace, even though it was always fighting itself. You had words for ideas that we didn't get. Letting go. Redemption. Rights of citizens. You fought terrible wars and then helped your enemies rebuild. You made weapons that could destroy your world, and then you talked about how to limit them. You were all over the place and contradictory, but you were still moving forward." Danny knew something about Forge's voice. Not quite hope, but maybe the memory of it. 17 of us spoke out against the Draxian High Command's decision to start the conquest wars. We knew from Earth's past that invasions and occupations never lasted. That oppression led to resistance. That there were better options. We used Earth's peace treaties as examples. We used quotes from your leaders and philosophers. We made the case for diplomacy. What happened? Danny thought the Drake wouldn't answer because it was so quiet for so long. When Forge finally spoke, his voice was softer, harder. They called us traitors. Corrupted by ideas from outside. Not strong. They brought us all together in the Grand Chamber and showed us what to do. They ripped out our bioelectric communication organs one at a time. A Draxian can't talk to other Draxians without those organs. Not able to be part of the group. We were cut off from the people we knew. Sent away. Left on dead worlds to die of hunger or wounds. Danny's hands were tight. He knew how that felt. Getting cut off. The system you worked for let you down. How did you make it? Desperation. Being stubborn. I wouldn't let myself die in silence. For years, I taught myself how to move my vocal cords so that I could make sounds like people do. At first, it was very painful. My throat wasn't made for it. But I had many years to work on it. I learned to speak the language of the people who taught me that there was another way. And my uncle found you? Leonard Ross was a xenobiologist who studied war refugees on a moon that was in dispute. He found me alone, half-starved, and dying from infected wounds. He should have told the police about me. He saved my life instead. For 20 years we studied together. He told me about how the Earth is now and how people have changed over time. He was the only person I knew in this galaxy. Forge's voice now showed real sadness. When he got sick, he made plans for you to get me. He said you would get it. That your own people had also turned their backs on you, even though you had helped them. That you would see me as a soldier who had been left behind, not a monster. Danny's throat felt tight. Uncle Leonard had known. He somehow knew exactly what had happened to Danny's life. Why didn't you say anything before? You could have when Leonard was alive. And what do you mean? Forge's laugh was sad. I'm Draxian. My people almost made half of the galaxy their slaves. We set worlds on fire. We brought down civilizations. It wouldn't make a difference if one Drake spoke perfect English. People would still hate me. Still be scared. Leonard got that. He let me be alone, hidden away, and forgotten. But you did talk now. What? Because you chose mercy over ease. You could have left. Let them fire me. Instead, you were the one who kept me from dying. For someone you don't know. For a beast. Forge's eyes were on Danny. That's what I learned from Earth's broadcasts all those years ago. That sometimes one person's decision to do the right thing can change everything. I wanted you to know that your choice was important. The alarms in the hangar went off before Danny could answer. Briggs's voice came through the intercom, frantic and scared. Ross, get out of there. The Draxian military just broke into the station. They're coming right at you. Old war treaties give them the right to kill traitors. Now they're coming. The whole body of Forge got tense. The purge squads. They look for speaking dragons like me. People who learned to speak human languages. People who were against the war. For 50 years they've been looking for survivors. There was a loud bang as the hangar doors blew open. The metal twisted and screamed. 3 huge figures came out of the smoke and rubble, fully armored for battle with weapons ready. Warriors from Drax. Each one had 9 feet of muscle and military technology. The translator for the lead warrior came to life. Traitor Forge. You should have been killed a long time ago. Get away from the containment unit, human. This has nothing to do with you. Danny stood up, his legs shaking but his voice steady. That's not right. This Drake belongs to Earth. You want him? You have to go through me first. The warrior tilted his head as if he was curious. Would you die for this traitor? For one of us? Yeah, Danny said, putting his feet down. I guess I would. The warrior lifted his weapon. That's how it is. The lead Draxian warrior was at least 9 feet tall in his battle armor, and the scales on his armor shone black under the reinforced plating. His voice sounded like metal grinding and thunder when he used his translator. Danny could see his own reflection in the warrior's helmet visor. It showed a skinny man in old clothes standing between 3 trained killers and their target. Very smart. Danny, you're really smart. The warrior said, I am Commander Vex of the 5th Purge Squadron. Section 12 of the Treaty of Broken Chains says that the Draxian Empire has full control over traitors to the throne. This animal was a traitor to our people. Galactic Accords say that he can be killed. Station Master Briggs has already confirmed our authority, another warrior said as he moved to Danny's side. We have the right to do this, human. This is Draxian business. Danny's brain was racing. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears, but his hands stayed still. He had learned to respond that way after 6 years in the army. You stayed calm when things got bad. You saw. You found benefits. Danny, Forge said quietly from inside the containment unit. Please. Don't die for me. I have lived long enough. I knew this day would come sooner or later. Danny said, shut up, but he never took his eyes off of Vex. I'm thinking. The hangar was an industrial storage space that was 60 feet by 40 and full of cargo crates, loading equipment and maintenance tools. Tracks above for moving heavy containers. Narrow hallways with extra storage areas on both sides. The Draxians were huge and made to be strong. Their armor added a few hundred more pounds. Big. Powerful. But not quick. Do you know what your traitor did? Vex said, stepping forward. The metal floor was dented by his footstep. During the last fight for Kepler Station, Forge intercepted our military messages and sent them to Earth forces. Told them about the plasma minefield we had. We had to help evacuate 3 civilian stations before we could finish our mission. Sounds like he saved lives, Danny said. He made us lose the war. Vex screamed. The sound echoed through the hangar like a real force. Made us look like fools all over the galaxy. The powerful Draxian Empire was defeated because one traitor chose to show mercy to humans instead of winning. Yeah, think about that. Choosing to be merciful. Danny's hand moved toward the control panel for the cargo bay that was on the wall next to him. That must be embarrassing. Are you making fun of us? The third warrior stepped forward, and the weapon made a high-pitched whine as it charged. You stand there in your weak human body and make fun of Draxian honor? Danny shot back. I stand here wondering what kind of honor it is for 3 armed soldiers to kill 1 unarmed prisoner. That's not honorable. That's just killing someone with papers. Vex changed his position. Danny had struck a nerve. Last chance, person. Get out of the way. You're only putting off the inevitable. Danny's fingers found the panel that controls things. He didn't look at it, he couldn't take his eyes off Vex. But he could feel the buttons with his thumb. Controls for loading. Release in an emergency. Systems for cranes. Danny said, you're right. I probably can't stop you. I'm just one person. No armor. No guns. Just a broke veteran with a bad knee and worse luck. He stopped for a moment. But you know what I learned while I was in the service? Being small and desperate is better than being big and sure of yourself. He hit 3 buttons at once. 20 tons of cargo containers fell from their magnetic locks above. Danny threw himself back as metal crates fell between him and the warriors. The hangar shook. The alarms went off. Vex roared in anger when the containers got in the way of his direct path to the containment unit. Danny got up and ran to the left to the auxiliary corridor. His bad knee hurt, but adrenaline made it go away. Don't let him get away. Vex yelled. Kill the person, then kill the traitor. Plasma fire ripped through the cargo containers like they were made of paper. The floor was covered in molten metal. Danny ducked into the narrow hallway just as a blast blew up the wall where his head had been. The hallway was only 4 feet wide, which is enough room for maintenance workers to get through. The Draxians had to turn sideways to fit, and their armor scraped against the walls. Danny ran ahead quickly because he was smaller and could move faster in the small space. He could hear angry growls and the sound of metal scraping against metal behind him. One of the warriors yelled, "You think you can run, human? This station has limited hallways." Danny came to a junction, turned right, then left, and then climbed a ladder to the upper maintenance level. His knee screamed in pain. He heard the warriors smashing through the hallway below. They were too big to move quickly. There was a crackle in his comm unit. Station Master Briggs yelled, "Ross? What are you up to? Don't fight them." "Not fighting," Danny said as he climbed. "Just making them work for it. Get some safety. Get anybody. And have everyone in the galaxy watch this." "Watching what?" "All of it. Watch it. Send it out. Show people what happens when Draxian honor comes for a prisoner who isn't armed." He ran out onto the upper catwalk that went around the hangar. Vex had given up on the hallways and just blasted through the wall back into the main hangar below. It rained down pieces of metal and wire. The commander's armor was burned but still worked. "Smart human," Vex yelled up. "But you only caught yourself." Danny looked around in a panic. The crane that loads things. The one that moves parts of ships. The controls were right on the catwalk. He lunged for the control station and turned on the crane. The huge mechanical arm swung out on its track and the magnetic lifter was still on. The magnet grabbed Vex's shoulder and pulled him to the side. The commander lost his balance and fell. "You little..." Vex broke free, but Danny was already moving the crane again, using it like a big, clumsy weapon to keep the warriors away from Forge's containment unit. It wouldn't last long. The crane was made to load things accurately, not to fight. but every second was important. Danny? Forge's voice was louder than ever as it echoed through the hangar. Not just talking, projecting. Stop. They will kill you. Yeah, I guess so. Danny yelled back and swung the crane at the second warrior. But I'm very stubborn. Then Forge did something that made everything different. He spoke again, but this time his voice was strong. Power. The kind of presence that made even the fighters stop. Commander Vex. You say I betrayed our strength, but I found something much better in human kindness. I learned that real power isn't in how much violence you can do, but in how much peace you can keep. Everyone stopped. Even the soldiers. You speak the language of our victims, Vex said angrily. You make our whole race look bad with every word. A new voice from the hangar entrance said, No. He gives us hope. Danny looked down. There was a crowd at the blown-out hangar doors. Workers at the station. People who were traveling. Aliens from at least 12 different kinds. And they were all holding up their phones. Recording. Sending out. A little alien with purple skin and 4 arms came forward. Danny knew what kind of animal it was. A Talisian. The Draxians almost killed them all during the Conquest Wars. She said, This is being sent out to 40 star systems right now. Everyone is looking. The Draxian who figured out how to talk like a human. Who learned Earth's languages to promote peace instead of war. More aliens moved ahead. Different kinds. All of them had scars or other marks that showed they had survived Draxian attacks. An old alien with skin that looked like crystal said, We thought you were all dead, looking at Forge with something like awe. The talking dragons. People called you that during the war. Draxians who tried to stop the invasion. We thought the Empire had killed you all. They tried, Forge said, his voice full of pain from the past. There were 17 of us. We secretly learned the languages of Earth. We learned about how humans make peace treaties and settle conflicts. We thought we could change the minds of our leaders. Show them a different way. Someone in the crowd yelled, What happened? They took out our communication organs and left us to die alone on worlds that no one remembers. As punishment for having the nerve to say that conquest wasn't the only way to go. The crowd whispered. People who talked kept recording. Danny could see the view counters going up on the screens closest to him. A lot. Tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands. This was going around a lot. Vex's weapon shook. He was still pointing it at Forge's containment unit, but now billions of beings all over the galaxy were watching. Waiting to find out what he would do. Kill him, Commander, Vex's second warrior told him. Finish the job. And let them see what we really are, the Talisian said in a low voice. Not fighters. Just killers of anyone who dares to dream of peace. The hangar was quiet except for the sound of machines and broken electronics. Vex stood still, caught between his duty and the judgment of the whole galaxy. Then his communicator started to ring with an incoming call. Override priority. The kind that couldn't be ignored. Vex listened and his body went stiff. Then, slowly he turned off his gun. He told his squad to stand down. His voice was empty. We're being called back. By whom? Danny asked for something from the catwalk. The main screen in the hangar came to life. There was a huge Draxian in fancy ceremonial armor sitting on a black stone throne on every screen in the station. The Empress of the Draxian Empire. Everyone in the galaxy heard her speak in perfect English, Forge. And the kids of the speaking accord no matter where you are. We need to talk about what will happen to our people in the future. And maybe it's time we learn to talk instead of fight. Every screen in the hangar showed the Empress's picture. Her red scales shone in the light of the throne room, which looked like it had been burning for hundreds of years. Her eyes, old, calculating, and full of the shame of an empire, swept over the scene in front of her. Danny couldn't tell if she was looking through cameras or if her gaze somehow went right through the broadcast. The moment Commander Vex did it, his warriors did too. Danny could see how shocked they were even though they were wearing armor. The Empress never talked about specific situations. She ruled from the far-off throne world, and councils and commanders carried out her orders. For her to show up in person and talk directly. This had never happened before. The Empress said, Rise, Commander Vex. Her English was perfect, and the way she spoke made Danny think of old British movies. Exactly. Formal. Every syllable was perfectly controlled. You were following orders that were given 50 years ago. I now have questions about the orders. The hangar was completely quiet. Even the broken machines seemed to calm down. Danny could see the crowd getting bigger through the broken doors. There are now hundreds of beings, all kinds, all of them watching their communicators or public screens. The Empress went on, I've been watching this show for an hour now. Like 40 billion other people in 73 star systems. I saw a person with no weapons stand between death and a creature that all of his kind should hate. I've seen a Draxian talk about things we gave up on a long time ago in a human voice. She stopped. I have seen the shame of my empire laid bare for all to see. Your Majesty, Vex said, but she stopped him with a wave of her hand. We have been outcast for 50 years. The victors. The empire that tried to enslave the galaxy but failed. No species has faith in us. Everyone wants to trade with us. We sit on our throne world, alone, holding on to old pride and wounds. Her voice got harder. And we blame everyone else for it. That they just don't get how strong Draxians are. Honor among Draxians. Forge moved closer to the edge of his containment field, his amber eyes glued to the screen. But seeing this person put their life on the line for one of us, the Empress said, makes me question what honor is. Is it killing prisoners who dared to speak out for peace? Is it hunting people who survived and learned how to talk to people who are different from us? She leaned forward in her chair. Or is it honorable to admit when we were wrong? There was a shocked murmur in the crowd outside. Empresses never admitted they were wrong. People who ruled ancient empires didn't question their own choices. This was impossible. Your Majesty, Forge said, his voice echoing through the hangar, I have been waiting to hear those words for 50 years. And for 50 years I was too proud to say them. It was hard to tell what the Empress was thinking. Tell me, Forge. You and the other people who learned how to speak human languages. What did you want to get done? We wanted to show our people that there was another way. That strength could be there without winning. That talking could be stronger than not talking. And we killed you for it. It wasn't a question. How many of you were there? 17, Your Majesty. We called ourselves the Speaking Agreement. We all learned different languages from around the world. We learned about their past, their way of thinking, and how they made peace after terrible wars. Forge's voice got softer. We thought you would listen if we could just explain what we had learned to you. We didn't pay attention. And the war that came after took everything from us. The Empress stood up straight. Forge, are there any more? Other people who lived through the speaking accord? The hangar held its breath. I don't know, Forge said. I thought I was by myself. You're not. The voice came from the people. An old Draxian who was smaller than the warriors pushed through the crowd. His scales were faded gray and had scars on them just like Forge's. The station systems translated his words into perfect Spanish right away when he spoke. Mi nombre es Ember. For 43 years I have been hiding. I heard Forge speak and thought, maybe it's time to stop hiding. Another Draxian came out of a different part of the crowd. She was a female with bronze scales like Forge's. She said in Mandarin, my name is River. I haven't talked in so long that I almost forgot what my voice sounded like. Then one more. And one more. 5 Draxians in all, each stepping forward and speaking a different Earth language. Spanish, Mandarin, Arabic, Russian, Swahili. The translations overlapped, making a chorus of voices that hadn't been heard in 50 years. Danny's legs were shaking as he climbed down from the catwalk. This morning he thought he might get some old books as an inheritance. He was now seeing history change in real time. People outside started talking to each other. People who talk on the phone lit up when they got calls. News feeds were constantly updating with new information. The number of views on the screens was now in the billions. 5 survivors, the Empress said in a soft voice. 5 voices that needed to be heard. That could have changed everything. Danny felt like she was looking right through him when she looked right at the camera. This person, Daniel Ross, did something that my whole empire couldn't do. He paid attention. He thought a voice that everyone else wanted to shut up was important. A new person showed up at the entrance to the hangar. Danny knew who she was from news feeds. Ambassador Patricia Walsh, Earth's diplomatic representative to the outer stations. With her gray hair pinned back and a carefully neutral look on her face, she moved through the crowd with ease. Walsh said, Your Majesty, and bowed a little. This is a surprise honor. Ambassador Walsh. We are still surprised by your kind. The Empress pointed to the screen that showed the speaking dragons that had come together. These 6 have done something I thought was impossible. They have made me rethink 50 years of rules. What do you want to do? Walsh asked carefully. I am suggesting that the Draxian Empire officially ask to be a temporary member of the Galactic Council. The crowd went crazy. A wave of noise made up of shouts of disbelief, anger, hope, and fear. It looked like Vex and his warriors had been hit. The speaking dragons were shocked when they saw the screen. Walsh put her hand up to ask for silence. That's a big suggestion. But the council would need some guarantees. Guarantees that... I get it, the Empress said. That's why I suggest a condition. If the Galactic Council is willing to listen to us, they should also listen to the voices that tried to stop us from taking over. The people who learned your languages to speak up for peace. She stared straight at Forge. I ask that Forge be our first ambassador to the Council. If the galaxy can trust anyone to show what we could become, it must be someone who gave up everything to try to change what we were. It looked like Forge was going to shrink back. Your Majesty, I am only one Drake. One voice out of billions. Danny said, no, which surprised him. Everyone turned to face him. He coughed. You're the voice that taught yourself to talk when they tried to shut you up. You spent decades learning different languages just to understand peace. That's exactly what they need. The other speaking dragons moved closer to Forge's containment unit to show that they were all in this together. He speaks truth, Ember said in Spanish. We've been hiding for too long. We have to take any chance we get to change the future of our people. River nodded. Together. Everyone. Not as people but as proof that Draxians can learn. Can change. Can pick a different path. Walsh took out her communicator and typed quickly. I need to get in touch with the government on Earth. And the Council. I can't make this choice by myself. Of course, the Empress said. But know this, Ambassador. For 50 years, my people have lived alone and in shame. Our kids grow up hearing stories about how an empire fell apart and how glory was lost. They learn to hate the galaxy that beat us. Her voice got stronger with conviction. Or we can show them something else. We can show them that real strength isn't in winning, but in having the guts to admit when you're wrong and try to make things right. But we can't do this by ourselves. The galaxy needs to give us a chance. A Talisian pushed through the crowd. It was the same purple-skinned person who had spoken before. Your Majesty, your people almost killed my people. We have every right to say no to you. The Empress said, you do. But, the Talisian said, her voice shaking a little, we also remember the broadcasts we intercepted during the war. Draxian voices speaking out against the invasion, trying to warn us and help us. How many lives would have been saved if your leaders had listened to the speaking dragons 50 years ago? How much pain was avoided? She turned to Forge. You tried to stop it. You paid the price for telling the truth to those in power. That takes more bravery than any warrior's charge. Other aliens came forward, each one representing a species that had been hurt by Draxian rule. They started to talk slowly and with a lot of reluctance. Not everyone agreed. Some wanted very harsh terms. Some people wanted to completely reject it. But they were having a conversation. Arguing. Thinking about what can't happen. Danny watched everything happen, feeling completely lost. He just wanted to give a creature that was about to die a chance. He was now in the middle of galactic politics, watching species that had been enemies for decades slowly reach out to each other in an effort to find peace. Mr. Ross, Walsh said, taking him aside. This is going to get hard very quickly. Forge is going to need help. A person he can trust. Someone who knows what it's like to be. People who were supposed to take care of you left you behind? Danny was done. Yes, I understand. Walsh smiled a little. Earth government is going to want to give you a job. The official link between Forge and the Human Diplomatic Corps. Comes with a salary, benefits, and housing. Danny said right away, I'll do it. Then stopped. Wait, what is the pay? Enough so that you won't get any more eviction notices. Danny almost laughed. He had been 72 hours away from being homeless this morning. Now he was being offered a government job that would help people make first contact with the reformed Draxian Empire. The Empress stood up from her throne on the screen. I'll wait for the Council's choice. But you should know that things have changed whether they like it or not. The speaking dragons won't hide anymore. People will hear their voices. And maybe, in the end, more of our people will learn to use words instead of weapons. The show was over. The hangar went crazy again, but this time it was different. With a purpose. People are calling, setting up meetings, and arguing about rules and procedures. Danny looked at Forge, who was still in the containment unit. The Drake's amber eyes met his, and for a moment, they both understood each other without saying a word. They both had a second chance. Now they just had to figure out how to use it. Everything changed in 3 months. Danny stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Council headquarters and watched Forge and the other 5 speaking dragons take their places in the main chamber below through reinforced glass. The chamber was very old. It was carved out of a single asteroid, and its walls were covered in crystals that caught and reflected light like frozen stars. There were thousands of aliens from hundreds of different species sitting in the tiered seats, all looking at the 6 Draxians in the middle. Danny's new uniform still felt strange. The badge said Earth Diplomatic Corps. He went from having 3 part-time jobs and getting kicked out of his apartment to being the voice of all people in one of the most important events in galactic history. When he called his mom on video, she cried. She thought he was playing a trick on her. "Are you nervous?" Ambassador Walsh asked as he came to the window. Danny said, "I'm scared. What if they say no? What if all of this was for nothing? Then we try again tomorrow. And the next day. That's how diplomacy works." She smiled a little. "But you and I think they will surprise you." Forge stepped forward below. The chamber's translation system came to life, ready to translate his words into 600 different languages at once. But Forge didn't want it. Not really. He started speaking English and his deep voice echoed through the huge space. "Dear members of the Galactic Council, I'm not a warrior but a student. 300 years ago, my people picked up radio signals from a small blue planet on the edge of space that had been explored. We could have just left them alone. Back then, our law said we should have. But some of us were interested." Forge stopped for a moment to let his words sink in. "We heard Earth's broadcasts, their songs, the things they argue about, the stories they tell. We heard something we had never heard before, a species that made enemies into friends, that fought terrible wars and then helped rebuild what they had destroyed, that made weapons that could end their world and then decided to limit them." River stepped forward and kept talking in Mandarin. "We learned things that our language didn't have words for. Making peace, rights of citizens, justice that restores. We saw people fight the same things that drove our own people, fear, anger, and the need to be in charge. But they always chose differently." Ember took charge in Spanish. "So, we made the speaking accord with 17 other people. We looked at every language on Earth that we could find. We looked at peace treaties from the past. We thought that if we could just show our leaders what we had learned, they would see a different way to go." There was no noise in the chamber. The usual background noise of shuffling and quiet translations had even stopped. Everyone was paying attention. "When the Conquest Wars started," Forge said in English, "we spoke out against it. We showed examples from Earth's past that invasions and occupations never brought about lasting peace. We cited philosophers and leaders of humanity. We begged for peace." His voice got deeper. "We were called traitors for that. They made it impossible for us to talk to other people like us. Left us to die on forgotten worlds as warnings to those who question empire." There was a murmur in the room. Not all of them were kind. Some species were so angry with Draxians that they couldn't help but remember the Conquest Wars. River said firmly, "We don't ask for forgiveness. What our empire did can't be forgiven with words. Civilizations were completely wiped out. A lot of people died. We should feel that shame and we do. But," Ember said, "we want to show that Draxians can change. That we can learn from the things we do wrong. That we can help the galaxy instead of taking it over." The other 3 speaking dragons stepped forward and spoke in their native languages, Arabic, Russian, and Swahili. They gave out the speaking accord, which was a detailed plan that Ambassador Walsh and her team had helped write. Draxian tools to help fix worlds that have been destroyed. Exchanges for learning. Let people in to check things out. Learning the languages and customs of the galaxy. A 50-year probationary period with regular reviews. Forge ended by saying, "We offer you our voices," and then switched back to English. "For 300 years, some of us have been learning how to talk to each other, how to make peace, and how to turn conflict into cooperation. We learn these skills from people. Now we ask for the chance to teach them to our own people." The talk went on for 2 hours. There were questions from all over the room, some hostile, most cautious, and a few surprisingly supportive. Danny saw everything, his heart racing and his breath barely coming. Finally, the council chair, who was very old and Danny couldn't tell what kind of creature he was, asked the major blocks to vote on the first issues. The observation deck was so tense that it felt like it was going to explode. Walsh held on to the railing. Other diplomats moved closer to the glass. The voting groups made their positions known one by one. The arguments were very strong. The Talisian representative stood up with her 4 arms outstretched. "My people had a hard time during the Draxian conquest. A lot of people in my group wanted to vote against it. For permanent removal." Danny's stomach sank. "But then I asked myself," she went on, "what would have happened if the Draxian Empire had listened to the speaking dragons 50 years ago? How many of my people would still be alive? How much pain could have been avoided?" She looked right at Forge. "You tried to stop it. You paid the highest price for telling the truth. That bravery should be praised." She held up her voting crystal. "The Talisian Alliance votes to accept on a trial basis." There was a lot of noise in the chamber. Some of the other representatives stood up, some in agreement and some in protest. The arguments went on for another hour. In the end, the chair of the council asked for the last vote. Do you all agree to give the Draxian Empire probationary membership status under the terms of the speaking accord? The crystals in the room lit up. Yes, green. No is red. Yellow means not voting. Danny stopped breathing. The counting system kept track of results in real time, with numbers scrolling across screens. It was easy to meet the threshold. 2/3 of the votes were needed. The numbers went up. 60%, 65%, 68%. The last count came out. 147 people voted yes. 52 against. 23 abstentions. Yes. Walsh put her hand on Danny's shoulder, and her professional demeanor broke into a real smile. They did it. By God, they really did it. The 6 speaking dragons stood together below. Their different sizes and colors made them look like an impossible family. Through the observation window, Forge's amber eyes found Danny. Danny could see the emotion from this far away. Relief, hope, and disbelief that this was really happening. The next few weeks ran together. Danny was busier than he had ever been before. Working together with officials from Forge and Earth. Helping to write educational programs. Meeting with people from many different species who wanted to know how this change had taken place. The government of Earth gave him an apartment near the council station. It wasn't fancy, but it had 2 bedrooms and a converted cargo bay next door that Forge could fit in. At first, the neighbors were scared. A Draxian war drake living in their neighborhood? But Forge was calm. He learned their names, asked about their families, and used his incredible strength to move pipes that usually needed machines to fix a broken water line. 3 weeks after the vote, Danny and Forge sat on the small balcony of their apartment and watched ships come and go from the docking ports. There were stars everywhere, the station's curve, and the faint glow of a nebula in the distance. I got a message today, Forge said in a low voice. From the Draxian home world. 23 young drakes have asked to study human languages at colleges and universities on Earth. They want to take part in diplomatic programs. Danny smiled. 23. That's more than the 17 you had before. It's starting. Slowly, but it's starting. Forge moved and the starlight caught his scales. Other people are reaching out too. We thought the dragons were dead when they talked. We now know that 12 people survived and they are spread out across the galaxy. Each one is stepping up. Everyone wants to help. Your people are learning. Some of them. Some people still hold on to the old ways. But that's how things change, right? Not all at once. One voice at a time. Danny's phone buzzed. Another message from his sister, asking for the 1,000th time if this was really real and if her brother really lived next to an alien dragon that quoted human philosophers. He would have to call her back later. Do you know what's strange? Danny said. I was about to be homeless 3 months ago. Half the time I couldn't afford food. I thought my life was basically over. And now? Right now, I'm on a space station balcony with a dragon watching history happen. He laughed. Uncle Leonard knew, right? He was sure of what would happen. He knew we would need each other. 2 soldiers were left behind by their people. We're both trying to figure out what's next. Forge's voice was warm. He gave us a present, the chance to matter again. Danny's communicator had a news feed that caught his eye. The headline showed a young Draxian on the floor of a classroom with human kids, all of them working on their pronunciation together. The Drake, who was probably no more than 10 years old by their standards, was carefully putting together English words while kids around him acted like it was the most normal thing in the world. The young Drake looked at the camera and said, "Hello," slowly and carefully. "Hope is my name. I am learning peace." People had already watched the video 3 billion times. Danny showed Forge. The big Drake didn't say anything, but Danny could see his eyes light up and his scarred face change in a way that made him look like he was in awe. "Hope," Forge said again in a soft voice. "They gave her the name Hope. Because of you," Danny said. "Because you wouldn't stay quiet." More news feeds went by. A group of Draxians visiting a world they had hurt 50 years ago and offering help with rebuilding. Speaking dragons are opening language schools all over the Empire. Young Draxians are forming cultural exchange groups because they want to learn more about the galaxy their parents tried to take over. It wasn't great. There were still protests, species that wouldn't forgive, and Draxians who didn't like the new direction. Change was hard, slow, and annoying. But it was going on. Danny pulled up an old picture on his phone. It was the eviction notice from 3 months ago. He had kept it, but he didn't know why. Maybe to help you remember. Maybe as proof that one choice can change everything in life. "Have you ever thought about what would have happened if I had just left?" Danny wanted to know. Would I have let them kill you? Every day, Forge said. But you didn't leave. You chose mercy even though it meant giving up everything. That one choice changed not only my life, but also the future of my whole species. I just didn't want to see another soldier get thrown away. And that, Forge said, is the most human thing I've ever heard. You saw someone who needed help and you gave it. No big plan. No political calculation. Just one person making the right choice. They sat quietly and comfortably watching the galaxy spin around them. On 1,000 worlds, Draxians were learning how to talk. Being able to listen. Finding out that strength can mean more than just winning. It all started here in a freezing cargo bay, with a broken veteran who wouldn't let them kill a dragon. Danny looked at the eviction notice and Forge's diplomatic credentials that were framed on the wall inside. A before and after. A start and an end. Do you remember what Uncle Leonard said to me once? Danny said. I was about 10 years old and didn't really get what he did. He said that the most important discoveries aren't about finding new things. They're about looking at old things in a new way. Words of wisdom. Yeah. Danny grinned. He saw you as someone who chose peace over power for 20 years, not as a monster. He also made sure I saw you the same way. And you did. Despite everything, despite your own struggles, your own pain, you chose to see me. Not what I was, but what I could be. Forge's voice was low. That is what people gave to the galaxy. Not land, weapons, or technology. The ability to believe that anyone can change. That it is possible to be saved. That voices are important. A Draxian ship docked at the station in the distance. The hull had new markings on it, the sign of the speaking accord. 6 voices spoke in 6 different human languages, representing a species trying to find its way back from the dark. The galaxy was changing. One voice at a time. One option at a time. A person and a dragon show everyone that speaking up and not staying quiet can change even the oldest hatreds into something new. Like hope.